Sergeant Matthew McFarland Lewey, 55th Massachusetts, United States Colored Troops during the Civil War. Welcome to the first episode of Tale from the Crypt. I'm Nigel, Public Archaeology Coordinator at FPAN Central and co-host of the Materialists podcast. This Tale from the Crypt program is basically going to be a blending of the successful cemetery resource protection training workshops at FPAN offers and the Materialist podcast. So not only are we going to be looking at the material culture of cemeteries, but also digging a little bit deeper into who these characters are, whose names are engraved on these final pieces of material culture that represent them. Today we are at Mount Pleasant Cemetery, just down the street from my house here in Gainesville, established around 1883, 1885, historic African-American cemetery. It's in much need of a mow, but in relatively good shape. And actually, this property has 3 separate cemeteries heading east from here. That's US 441 behind me. So how this is going to work is I'm going to do a brief introduction and then jump into the episode and then come back and greet y'all afterwards. So introducing Sergeant Matthew McFarland Lewey. Matthew M. Lewey was born in Maryland in 1845. Though Maryland was a slave state at the time, it is believed that Lewey was born a free person, as he was able to attend a private school for African Americans, an opportunity that would have not been allowed for enslaved people. At 15, his parents sent him to live in New York with relatives where he was able to receive a more traditional education. As Lewey reached adulthood in 1863, he made the choice as a free person to enlist in the United States Colored Troops. As University of Florida professor Paul Ortiz suggests in an independent Florida Alligator article from July of 2020, at this point during the Civil War, if an enlisted African-American soldier was captured by Confederate forces, the chances of becoming enslaved or executed was very high. This risk was something Lewey recognized, and following the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863, he joined the 55th Massachusetts Regiment to fight for the Union. After moving up to the rank of sergeant and color bearer, Lewey was shot and wounded during the Battle of Honey Hill in South Carolina on November 30th, 1864. Lewey was presumed dead in the field, but did survive and recovered in hospital in New York. Following the war, around the age of 20, Lewey refocused on his education and attended Lincoln University in Pennsylvania, then moved on to the acclaimed Howard University in Washington, D.C. in pursuit of a law degree. It was at Howard where his connection to Florida began. Lewey met and befriended Congressman Josiah T. Walls, another distinguished, well-known Gainesville figure, but we'll be talking more about him later on. Walls convinced Lewey to head south and settle down and begin his law career in Noonanville, formerly the county seat of Alachua County, before it moved to Gainesville. Now, a quick aside here, there's really nothing left of the town of Noonanville, but an old historic cemetery and some really nice old houses. I do highly encourage the listeners and the viewers to go out and check out the historic cemetery, walk around the old yards way in the back. It's probably one of the nicest historic cemeteries I've been to. Really, really nice spot. Matthew Lewey hit the ground running here in Florida, working as a teacher, postmaster, and mayor of Noonanville. Lewey faced many of the same obstacles as other African Americans faced during the Reconstruction in the South, white resentment to black achievement. As Lewey moved into higher political office, former Confederate supporters made their opinions known. While it is not known if Lewey faced any violent rebukes of his achievements in the South, he certainly faced definite pushbacks against his political aspirations. This is the backbone of systemic racism. When violent retribution isn't an option, racist, white power holders will do anything to impede progress that might threaten their power. This was the case in both the Democratic and Republican parties of the time. Another quick aside here, the two major political parties have essentially flip-flopped from what they were during the 19th and early 20th centuries. So there was still the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, but they have basically flip-flopped their perspectives. The Democratic Party of the time was the party of white supremacy. UF history professor and activist Paul Ortiz quotes Lewey in his book, Emancipation Betrayed. Quote, "We feel and know the many disadvantages to which colored men are subjected in this state, not only by Bourbon democracy, but by the cold, selfish leaders of the Republican Party whose only object is to have you vote for them on the day of election while they fatten and revel on the spoils of office." End quote. This violation was made even more evident during the 1888 congressional election. Professor Ortiz explains that a white-controlled Republican executive committee purged both Josiah T. Walls and Matthew Lewey from the local ticket because, quote, "white candidates refused to allow their names to appear alongside a black man's." This move, according to Ortiz, helped to pave the way for GOP respectability in Alachua County of the time. Lewey did achieve success, however, and together with other black civic leaders and activists formed the first multicultural political party in the South, known as the Independent Party of Florida, in 1884. He started the Gainesville Sentinel in 1887, a nationally recognized African-American newspaper, later to be called the Florida Sentinel when Lewey moved to Pensacola. He helped found the Associated Negro Press in 1919, registered voters following World War I, despite KKK pressures. He officially retired around 1930 and died in Jacksonville in 1933. Matthew M. Lewey achieved much in his life and through his success pushed back against white supremacy and fought for equal rights and opportunities in Florida and nationally. Thanks so much for joining me on episode 1 of Tale from the Crypt featuring Sergeant Matthew McFarland Lewey. Just a little bit about his material culture. This is a standard Veterans Administration grave marker for troops that died before World War I. Nothing too much to it, pretty basic. His name, his rank. Thank you so much to FPAN. If you'd like more information on FPAN, please go to fpan.us. Keep your eyes and ears peeled for new Materialist podcast episodes coming up for Season 3. Huge thank you to Ms. Karen Kirkman of the historic Haile Homestead. She's helping me do research on a lot of these cemetery projects I do. And give a thumbs up, like, and go check out your local cemetery. And we'll catch you all on the flippity flip.